Hello! Hopefully you're all there. It's telling me you are, but oh, have I got a slide for you tonight. So I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hello, Renee. I've no idea what that means. But the first word's hello, so let's go with that. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Debbie. And who else have we got? Oh, I've got a message from YouTube. How kind. Hello, Peter. I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hello, Renee. I've no idea what that means. There we go. That was my iPad. My iPad was just catching up with everybody. So we got that in stereo. Hello, Deb. Don't want to miss anybody. Hello, Pete. And who else have we... Carol, long time no see. Yay, you're back.
It does help if I'm not on mute on YouTube.
Yes. Good job my iPad piped up then, isn't it? Or you'd be saying we've got no audio. Oh, ever professional. Hello, Graham. How's the weather where you are? It is pretty windy here. We are being hit by storm, is it Arwen?
Yeah.
Something like that. I did actually say to Mike, I wonder if the shed will be there in the morning. But, if not, be in somebody else's garden. We'll find it. Hello, Deborah. Oh, does that mean we've got the entire collection of Debs in? I do believe it is.
We have.
Yay! Fantastic. Now, United Iconic, that's brilliance. Yeah, in a different guise. Mm-hmm. Who else have we got with us? Stephen.
It is United Iconic because Ollie's gone in the same way that Carl sneaked in a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, I think so. I think it definitely could be. Anyway, we've got to get on. Where's young Jonathan? We're a man down. Oh, no. Oh, hang on. It could be a special meal for Jonathan, couldn't it? Because it's Hanukkah on Sunday. Yeah. So you never know. It could be a special Friday meal. But hello to Jonathan, even though he's not there, because he'll catch up later. So good morning or good whatever time it is, Jonathan. Excellent.
I'm very quiet.
Why are you quiet?
I don't know. Carol said I'm very quiet.
Well, are you talking to the microphone? That helps. I am. I'll sort you out in a minute. But you are actually broadcasting, I think. No, I'll have to deal with you in a minute. Unless I can push a button and then we can do it, but probably not. Oh, there we go. Right, let's try that. Do you want to say hello now?
Hello.
Right, I think they've got you now. Excellent. Right, so without further ado, let's see what we're up to, because we've got a lot to squeeze in. We do. Always better if that's actually moving, which it's not, but never mind. So as you can see, we've got a lot to think about. Oh, there is a new version of Pixelmator Pro out called Abracadabra. You've got to love the names, haven't you? Anyway, I've worked out what it does, so I thought I'd do a quick demo of it. Then we've got the completed fixed layout Apple book, totally finished and ready to share. Then we've got part 2 of digital asset management with Eagle and some freebies. Oh, they're good freebies, if I do say so myself. Then Mike's got Power Query, haven't you?
I have.
Excellent. And then we've got building a solution with Scrivener. So not just any old Scrivener file, no, a real one. And how I've actually put it together. Oh, it's windy and rainy in Germany as well. It's really not good here. It's shockingly bad. Hello, Paul. Just spotted Paul as well. Excellent. So that's what we're doing. We need to know, what has YouTube done to you? It had me on 360 this week, and I wouldn't mind. It was a YouTube channel that actually had 4K available. And I was watching in Chrome, and it still didn't default to 4K, but hey-ho. Right, while you sort your cog out in the lower right, there is a thumbs up. You could give us a like, because it really makes a difference with YouTube. I also thought this week we'd give you a bit of a giggle. This time last week, let's travel back in time. So it's the week of MacBites headquarters, but we're starting a day earlier than usual by looking at what I was looking at this time last week, just in case you think that it was me, because it wasn't me. No. I'll zoom in on that. That's not what you want to see at the point you're trying to live stream. Yes, I did try the try again button. Did it do me any good? No, it didn't. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? You're not. No, hang on a minute. What's going on here? Naughtiness. So why did nobody tell me, including you, Mike, that you weren't looking at the slides?
Because I'm 30 seconds behind.
Yes, but I've moved on since then. Oh, never mind. Right. Let's try that again with you actually seeing the slides. That's a good idea. That's what we've got coming up. I'll quickly go through it again. Abracadabra. It's basically making selections, but doing it really quickly. And then we've got the fixed layout EPUB. We're looking at digital asset management with Eagle Part 2. Special freebies, not just one of them, multiples of freebies. Then Power Query, and then building a solution in Scrivener. So then we're back onto, no wonder things weren't moving. Right, then we were back onto what it had done to you, so do let me know. We've got a question there if you want to grab that question, Mike, and I can answer that later. Right. With the like. And then I was turning the clock back to this time last week, which was when I was seeing that. Luckily, didn't happen tonight. I have seen it before, but I thought last week I'd grab it, just so you knew that I was suffering. Right, so Saturday. We had 8 shows on Saturday, but there was a far more important business going on. Oh, yes. Mike was not confident, were you? We're beyond bad words now. He had no words whatsoever. Now, my Saturday had been rudely interrupted, which I'll come on to, which meant that by half time, I didn't know the score. When Mike apprised me of the score, it was terrible. So at this point, it was, is Ollie a goner? We pretty much reached the conclusion.
Ollie gonna Solskjaer.
Yes, exactly. I intended that, Mike. That wasn't accidental. So we pondered for the rest of the day. But I got a surprise. I got an email. I had handily escaped the full horror because this email brought a surprise for me, a nice surprise, which was involving David Allen's GTD book, which I'm sure we're all aware of. Well, Book Club is back, and my mail was an invitation to the invitation-only cohort of an unofficial Rome Book Club. It was limited to 50 attendees, and it was well oversubscribed. I don't recall actually trying to get in. I just got a mail that said, we've saved you a place. So I thought, that'll do nicely, thank you. So I spent the match doing the unofficial Rome Book Club. But of course, because this was unexpected and I'd already planned Saturday out, Saturday got busy, as you can see. All colour-coded, but busy. But we still found time to parcel up and balloon up a gift for Chidge. It was his 70th birthday on Saturday. So basically, you left the present and ran, didn't you?
I did.
Because, social distancing and all that, which was just as well because he was in the shower. So that all worked out very well. And at 8 o'clock, we went into by request with a theme of Ladies' Night because it was Brooklyn's Ladies' Night. There's the birthday boy himself with the lovely Rachel on the right and Nina in the middle and a gnome behind them. I think the gnome with the iPad was the guitarist, but don't quote me.
I think it is.
He does look like a gnome sat there like that. And for any of you who have ever joined us in Brooklands, this is Kath and Kaz. Just in case you were wondering, that's Kath and Kaz. We, of course, were at home socially distancing, and we had a party with the Tesco man. Oh, our lives are so exciting. Now, Sunday morning, yes, we awoke to the not unexpected news that there was a Manchester United manager who had gone, and if you're in the market for an impossible job, to give them a call. I did briefly consider it, but I, in the end, decided that herding overpaid fat cats didn't really appeal. So it was bye-bye, Ollie. But he did make a rather amazing gesture, didn't he?
He did.
With his payout. Because he'd just got a new contract in the summer. So obviously they have to pay his contract out, which was $7.5 million. And he's given it to charity. So that was very kind. Right, which took me on to Monday. I've got an admission to make to you all. I had to spend some time with Scrivener. Why is this a confession? Well, I'd got a broken compile configuration. Stuff like that happens. No shame in that, except it's been that way for 4 years. I know the shame of it. But in my defence, I didn't break it. I had a perfectly working compile in Scrivener 2. But Scrivener 3 wasn't kind. So I decided, having sorted out Patricia's compile, that I really should eat my own dog food and try and sort mine out. So I headed into mine. Fair to say it was overwhelming to revisit something I built 10 years ago. and then to try and troubleshoot it. Eventually, I decided to compile all the contents of the draft folder, which was all the recording notes from MacBites 79 all the way through to MacBites 153. Just under 50% of all the MacBite shows ever produced, which might explain why my compile had 3,286 pages. Don't ask how long that took to compile. It was quite a while. You know when you've got the spinning beach ball of death and you're thinking, is it ever going to come back? That. But, good news, I fixed it. It took a while, and I have got this lovely 3,000 odd page file, but I've fixed it. So, all good news. All good news. Tuesday was going to be a big test, wasn't it, Mike? Champions League. I said, don't have no fear. They will win. It's an unwritten rule of football. If the manager has been sacked, you must win the next game. Guess what? They won the next game. Unbelievable. So I took the opportunity, while Mike was in a good mood, because, you know, that's not often lately, I took the opportunity to discuss the Great MacBites Advent giveaway. Much plotting and planning afoot. More on that later. Wednesday, I'll admit, I wasn't looking forward to it. Oh, it was a governor's meeting. Now, there are people that don't like online meetings, but this one was not good. It was appalling, yes. It was their last governor's meeting and they came in 3 times and got kicked out. Don't know what was going on there. And then the one leading the meeting sounded like Norman Collier. It wasn't good. It was a case of make it stop. Now, obviously, the person leading the meeting was the chair of governors. So can you have a governor's meeting without the chair of governors? Yes, technically, but, you know, it's frowned upon. And everyone was just in a complete flap. And I said, do you know, look, it's fine. I'll get her back. This is what happened for the rest of the meeting. That is my phone. Yes, it's upside down. Why is it upside down, you're thinking? That's so the microphone was at the top and it could pick up the sound from my speaker neatly behind it, and that's how the meeting carried on. There really is no words. There's no words. We have mentioned on MacBites before one of my grand's favourite comedians, Sandy Powell, and his catchphrase was, "Can you hear me, mother?" So I spent the rest of that meeting thinking, can you hear me, mother? They do T-shirts with that on. So there's a little gift for me for Christmas. Never again. Never, ever again. Because you had a webinar thing on, didn't you, for 3 hours?
I did.
And Mike came in and I'm doing the shush thing because obviously the microphone on the phone was wide open so she could talk to the rest of us via my phone. And I'm doing the hand signals and gestures at the time. Some of those gestures were very easy to follow, weren't they, Mike? Which took us on to Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving for Thursday. I've been inundated, and my inbox, I can't see it. I think there was 500 mails, and 600 of them were all about Black Friday. But we didn't want to miss the big announcement, did we? That Mike hadn't heard. I had to send this to him while he was out with Lola. United had got a new interim manager. Yeah. I have never heard of the guy. Never heard of the guy. So I told Mike, I thought Mike will know. No, Mike hadn't heard of him either. So a bit of Googling was needed. Guess what I found, Mike?
What?
A film, I think. I think that's a film. Wreck-It Ralph. I'm saying nothing. I'm just going to give it 6 months and see how it goes. I'm saying nothing. Oh, but doing the Googles, always more worrying than necessary, to be honest. So that took me on to Friday, and Friday I've acquired 3 extra course sessions on the course that I'm on. So to say Friday has been busy is an understatement. So I'm going to get on with it because one of these sessions is after we've finished, which means we'll have to be out on the dot so I can actually attend it. So we're going straight into Pixelmator Pro 2.3 Abracadabra. That's a brilliant name. They give each one of these a name, and that is a brilliant name. I'm loving that. Right, so let's have a look at that. So I will do the Pixelmator Pro thing. and Pixelmator will appear wherever it wants to and take as long as it wants to do it, as ever. Let's get that there. Right, I have no recollection of which one I was supposed to be doing first. So let's have a quick shufty. Okay, it was the lady. It was the lady. So do we have the lady? No, we don't. So what I'll do is I'll right-click and open the lady. Right, so what this feature is background removal. And it's supposed to... Where have you disappeared to? Why are you not alphabetically showing yourself? There we go. Excellent. So it's background removal, and it's supposed to be idiot-proof. So I thought I'd test it with Mike. But then I decided, no, leave it alone. Right, what we've got here is a JPEG that has just one layer, the background. There's no... Abracadabra does not mean I'm cheating and doing it by magic. No, this is just genuine. This is genuine. So what I'm going to do with it, there is a button at the top. This is the background removal tool. It is going to automatically, with AI, remove the background. How successful it's going to be at that pretty much depends on the image. So I picked 3 images and thought, let's give it a go then. So once I click the button, it does 3 things in sequence. In terms of colour and content, and boom. That's what we end up with, which is pretty good. That is literally 1 click. So I thought, let's test it and see how good it is in terms of what we could do with that image. So if we look at the hair that we've got here, I nearly said fur then, being a fur kid mum. But you can see it's actually made a pretty decent job of that. Not bad at all. So let's test it. And can you see this jumping? It's not great. I must admit, I'm an affinity girl, and I don't like the way that is jumping. I need to get it fairly big, but not quite that big. And as soon as I do that, it goes funny. So let's take it up to there and leave
Debbie
it there.
S is well impressed with that.
It's pretty good, that. But we want to see that now in the context of another image. So I have another image, which I am putting. I'll put it in front of it first. Right, so we can scale it. So I've just got this image, which I can move about. I've got a little bit of spare space on it, so I could move it up, or I could put it in the middle, and I went for in the middle there. And what we need to do with it is pop it behind the lady. Not bad. Does it look realistic? Well, you'd be looking at scaling the lady and moving her. So if it made more sense to have her over here and a bit lower, or maybe she's very tall, we can't really go much more than that. But I think that looks fairly realistic. And then what I did with the furniture background was in the format somewhere, because I don't use this, but we do have blur and we do have Gaussian or Gaussian blur. There we go. And I took that up to 12, and I thought that was pretty decent. What I was looking at, well, that's 13, but what I was looking at was the hair, and that looks pretty good. That is not bad at all. That is a good job. A good job. So that was what it did with that one. Let's get another one now. So I'm going to close that down. Don't need to keep that. I'm going to go on to the second one that I did, which was a child. And I thought this one's going to be trickier. It's going to be trickier. The reason that it's going to be trickier will become apparent as soon as you can see it. Basically, the girl's got a dress on, and it's a spotty dress. But there is a lady there with her who has a bigger spotty dress on. And I thought, well, I can see it getting that child off the background, but what would it make of the fact that there's bigger dots on the right, basically? Anyway, again, all you need to do, not doing anything clever at all, just click the button. And it removes the background, it refines the edges, and it looks for fringing in terms of colour to see how much it can get rid of. And I thought, well, with the green, that might not do a good job. But it did. It did an amazing job with that. So then what I thought was, right, let's try putting a background behind it of a child's party. So I needed to do some playing around with this. It zooms in and out backwards to the other one. To anything else I use, it does it backwards. Right, so let me move that up there, make that a little bit bigger. And she still doesn't fit in. She's far too sharp. The colours don't work. But let's move her over there a bit and make her a bit bigger because she's at the front. At which point I noticed it had missed a fraction. So if I take that background away, we have a little bit there that it's missed. But it is the dots off the lady's dress. So they must have been similar colour. So all I'm going to do with that is just grab the eraser tool and literally erase it. That was all it needed to get rid of it. So let's zoom out again and put these back. Still not perfect, not by a long way. Let's try and zoom in again.
Renee's well impressed as well.
Oh, this really does annoy me, this.
I'm well impressed.
Oh, Mike could actually... I said, didn't I? I qualified this by saying you could do this. Right, I'm going to make her a bit bigger so she's at the front and they're behind her. But we still have an issue because there's no way the colours match at all. But that's quickly solved as well, and I'm not aiming for perfection here. I'm aiming for something that a newbie could do. So I would give it a nice pale thing on the background, get her, same on her, and then she kind of matches the thing. And we've got a nice aged image from the birthday party. There we go. You could take that much further. You could use different effects. I just wanted something to see. Could I make it look like she was in that photo, but nearer the front? And that'll do. There we go. So that was the second one. Right, the third one, I wanted to go for something completely different. I figured it would be able to do a reasonable job with the selection. So I'm going to open up the image in Pixelmator Pro. There we go. And I thought this one looked like a singer. Now, the difficulty with this one is it's well lit and the jumper should be easy. It was how everything was quite a similar tone in terms of being grey-brown. So would it do a good job or not? What would it do with the hair? How well would the hair cope? Because I had in my mind the perfect background for this image. Did a really good job, and it even managed to keep the highlighting in it. Which meant that the image I had in mind for the background, let's pop it behind it, which was that one of a theatre. So I wanted to think of him as a musician, you know, maybe advertising a concert coming up at the theatre would work. And that didn't look bad at all. There's a little bit of light over here that isn't coming from that image. But I thought, well, it's a poster. In my mind, it was a poster. So I thought I could do quite a lot there. I could push that quite a long way with it being a poster. So I did. And I went for a light leak, which I think was that one. And then applied the same light leak to him. And boom, we've got a poster. And now this fringing over here that looked a particular colour is now taking on the colour that I've applied with the effect. So now it looks like that light is actually behind him. Oh, right. I'm seeing a question here, but I'm not sure what it's in relation to. Would I recommend the Mac Store version or the one from the website? What app are we talking about with that? Did we have an app for that, Mike?
Probably this.
Is this actually available from their website? I thought it was App Store only. Oh, no, that's a bit of a question at the moment. If there is a different way to do it, you'd have to move him off centre. I thought of moving him off centre, but it actually moves him, given what I've done with him. So let's get the move tool. If I were to move him over here, he doesn't have enough of that. So I might be tempted to move his crown or make that smaller or get rid of that entirely. I could probably get rid of that entirely.
Yeah, I only see it in the App Store.
As far as I'm aware, it's only available in the App Store. That was the story with Pixelmator Classic a while back. If you've got a choice, then the choice is the App Store will let you install it on multiple devices and it's not tracked in any kind of activated software kind of way. But you would have to wait for updates. So it really does depend on whether you're prepared to wait for the updates or not. If it's something critical to my workflow, and I would think critical to my workflow would be Camtasia, Snagit and Scrivener, then I buy it from both. But I appreciate that's an edge case. but it has happened to me. I remember one Christmas day, I wasn't going to get any support Christmas Day, was I? It wouldn't work. This app that I'd got wouldn't work, and it was about £12. And I said to Mike, I'm just going to buy it again. With that one, I think it was the App Store version, had a sandboxing issue and wouldn't work. So I bought it direct on Christmas Day because I'm sad like that. And never looked back. I got both versions then, but very much personal preference. But as far as I know with this, it's only available direct from the app. Well, sorry, it's only available from the App Store, but it is on offer at the moment. I think it's got 50% off it. So now is a very good time to buy if you want to buy it. It probably is quicker to remove the background, and it does a fairly good job. But before you part with cash, those were the ones that worked amazingly well. So let me get rid of those. What I then decided was, let's have a look at some of the others. So, for example, this one, which I know is self-indulgent with me, but you can't beat a lovely Samoyed. The pups are 5 weeks old this week. Oh, billing and cooing over them. Right, would it be able to extract the dog with the fur from the background? And I thought with this one, it's going to struggle. Not particularly with the dog, because that's fairly straightforward. But there was something on there that I thought it's not going to be able to fix. And the issue there is the feet. The feet are hidden behind the grass, and it's going to take the grass away, but it's not going to re-put the foot in there. The other issue you've got is the nose. For some reason, best known to itself, it got rid of the nose as well. Not good. Not good. So it's going to very much depend on the image. The other dogs that were a variation. And then I had a whole range of images that I had a look at and thought, well, I wonder if it could do that. And, if it could, how well would it do it? So let's have a look at one with more hair. Another hair one. Right. I thought with that one, that's not difficult because you've got a studio background. So it should do a reasonable job with that, she said. Let's have a look if it does. Not bad, but not as good as I was expecting. And they've got the difficult bit, which I don't understand. But they've missed out, huge swathes of this. Why aren't you moving? That's better, but you need to come this way. The swathes that it's missed out, I think it should have been able to pick this up. If I can see that there's a difference, and I mean an almighty difference, then surely they can see that, but apparently not. Now, obviously, what you could do is refine that yourself. But the whole point of the feature is that you don't have to refine it yourself. And they particularly mentioned in the documentation for this new feature that colour fringing was part of the AI process and you wouldn't have to worry about it, really. But that one didn't work quite so well. The bits that it's missed would be easier to get out than it would be if it had made a mesh around the edges. But I still think that isn't as good as I would have expected. Let's get rid of that one and I will show you one where it went crazy with the colours. I think it was that one. I thought this would do better than it actually did with this. Now, this is a stock image. It came from Envato Elements. Here we go. It's a fabulous example of what not to do with your stock images, because that's just scary. And when I say scary, you might think, well, why is that scary? Oh, it's been over smoothed on the right-hand side of her face, which is on the left. And looking at it, if she didn't have the rose over here, where we've got this, what it looks normal, we wouldn't realise that over here does not look normal at all. But apart from that, I thought it should make a reasonable job. There's enough distinction between the hair and the background. So despite the fact it's probably one of the worst stock images I've ever seen, let's knock the background out and see that it's wonderful. Let's see what it does, because I can assure you the first time round it wasn't good. It's not bad in terms of selection, but it's left the colour fringing. And considering this article stroke blog post said, one of the powerful features is the colour fringing. I'm like, that could be better then. So with certain images, it's fantastic. But be warned, not every image is as good. It's going to depend on the subject in the image, the distinction between the subject and the background, and the colours in it. I was expecting that to be better than it is, but there you go. Right, let's have a look. Wasn't there a question? Is Pixelmator more powerful than Affinity Photo? They're both similar. Depends on how you look at it and what kind of features are important to you.
Apples and oranges.
This is the problem with them. They're not really a direct comparison. Pixelmator Pro was the next iteration of Pixelmator, but when it came out, it was one of the, you know, when they get an app and they rip out every feature out and then put 2 features back and then say, whoa, look, new app. They did that with it. It's been out long enough now that it's got the majority of its features back, and the focus of the entire thing is artificial intelligence. So the things that it can do, you don't really need to understand or be a genius with. You just push a button and then it does it.
My kind of app.
Your kind of app, Mike. Personally speaking, if I could only have the one, it would be Affinity Photo. I like the fact that the way it integrates with the other 2 apps. You know, if you know one Affinity app, you know them all. And the export on it, where I can do the export in a million different ways. Whereas in here, everything is focused on one single image at a time. So for me, it would be Affinity Photo, but I can understand you would have both. Obviously, I've got both. Now is an excellent time to buy with a 50% off. And there may be a time where you come in here and you knock the background out and then you take this image into Affinity and carry on with it. So I've always done that, travelled around with specific images in specific apps. So that's what I would say with it. But, you know, while it's on half price, it's worth it. I know the colour fringing can be edited afterwards, but Renee, I was looking at this from the perspective of, if you're an expert, you'd be doing your own knockout anyway. So this is going to be for either speed or those people who don't have that skill set. And if they don't have the skill set to do the knockout, they are not going to have the skill set to do the defringing and the colour adjustment later either. So I just thought with this one, I was expecting better with that particular image. I was expecting better with that particular image, because there is a huge distinction between the background. If the background was difficult, then I could understand it. But with that one, I don't think the background is difficult. So just some things to think about in terms of, you know, how well it coped with it. Some were worse than others. Some were absolutely shocking. But having said that, it was the background that was the problem. So if we look at this one, which was one of the first ones I tried, I thought it's not going to do a good job on the left with that. How can it? I can't work out where the hair finishes. So unless their AI is amazing, they're not going to work out where the hair finishes either. My eyeballs did a much better job than they did. So let's have a look at that. Prepare to be afraid. Be all right if it was a horror poster you were making. Yeah, because there wasn't much left of her at all. So on the right images, it is stunning. But I'm not going to just demo it on the images it works on and tell you to go buy it. It's amazing. I'll tell you the truth. On some images, it's fantastic. On others, it's absolutely shocking. It depends on the image. And let's open up this last one and do that one. I categorised the images by how well they worked or didn't. That one, I thought, well, the hair should be easy. But I figured the difficult part of that would be the shoulder, because there is literally no distinction. So some images you might look at and initially think, oh, it'll do a good job with that one. And then you realise that there's part of the image and no, it won't do a good job on it at all. Obviously, there's things that you can do. So I'm just running this and we'll see what it does. And we lose far too much. It's not bad on the hair, but we've still got elements of the hair that it hasn't coped well with, and we've got the shoulder issue. But the right thing to do with an image like that would be to duplicate the background first and then run the background removal on it. When it's finished, I will take away the background layer that's the safe copy. And you could then manually do that. But again, so that's what you've ended up with. But you could manually put that back from the safe copy. But I was working on the principle, we were thinking about people who didn't have the skill set to be able to do that in the first place. So it's got its place, it's got its purpose. It doesn't replace Affinity Photo to me, but your mileage may vary. Right. Okay, let's get rid of all of those. No, I don't want to save and quit. I don't want to review the changes either, but I can't just say go away. So it's going to come up a million times. Oh,
Peter says you're the best.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Oh, they could improve this.
She's like our mum who teaches us technology instead of us teaching the older generation.
Right, we are moving on from there. So with the right image, so in this case, in all the three cases, the way it worked brilliantly, I took 2 images. I didn't cheat in terms of picking the images because I thought they'd be easy. Because I looked at the hair with that one and having seen the hair on some of the others thought, no, it's not going to cope. And then it did. And so obviously with that one, I blurred the background, which made her fit in. And then there was Party Girl, which with the sole exception of a couple of dots from the sleeve on the right, it did the knockout perfectly. And then I did the merge together and try and make them fit. And then there was Poster Boy and his crown. I went to town with that. But I think it's nice to see what it can do. And if that's what the job is, then use that tool if you've got access to it. Simple as that. Right, so creating digital books in Apple Pages. Right, 2 weeks ago we started this and we were looking at reflowable books, which is the Kindle kind of books. And we looked at fixed layout books. And last week we were concentrating on the fixed layout. And in a masterstroke of meta movement, we were doing the Mastering Scrivener series Custom Compile, where we had Patricia's requirements that we met. And I thought it would be a very meta example to take those requirements and how to do them and put them in the EPUB and a PDF for the sharing of. So that's what we've got. We started it last week. I finished it. So let's go into Pages, which for reasons of its own is not playing ball with opening up the last file. It's crazy. Right, this is the final thing. So let me get that so we can see the page. So I think last week when we left it, we'd got a couple of sections at the beginning and 1 or 2 pages. Oh, Nightmareville, when it actually came to do it. So that's the cover. That's one of the sections, which if you remember, we created in here. So we created a section. This is where it explains about compile. And then we've got the first section in terms of what those requirements were. So these were the requirements. And this was what we were aiming for on the right. Then I've put a section in about how to prepare for compile. So you need to have within your project section layouts. And I explain where to create them. And for this one, you then need to assign those layouts, and there's 3 ways to assign a layout. Then there was the actual content of the custom compile itself, of which there was quite a bit. So, for example, in the section layout, we needed that to be 12 point times New Roman. So that's how to do it. And then for each requirement, like inch margins all the way around, the instructions for that are there. So for every requirement, there was how to do it. This was where it got into a nightmare, and it was a Biggles thing. It was a Biggles thing. Trying to take screenshots on Biggles, you get rounded corners. Which means when you drag and drop the image in, instead of having a beautiful, beautiful screenshot, all you can see are the ugly corners, which have got blue and grey behind them. Not even colours that I've got on my desktop. I've no idea where they came from. No idea. But there they were. So I had to deal with that. The numbering that you see was done in Snagit and then brought into here. So all of those pages were done. Then how to assign the section types to the section layouts. So it's like the ankle bone connected to the knee bone, etc. So I put in how each of those is hooked up, and then finally what the final output looks like, and showing in situ where the changes we'd made came through and how it looked like. So there we go. We have now a guide to compile in Scrivener. So from here, I needed to export this as an EPUB and a PDF. So it was export, so file export to PDF and EPUB. Having done that, so I've finished that bit now, I can show you the final thing, and I've put it in Apple Books. So here's Apple Books. There is my custom compile in Scrivener. I'm going to open that up and take it full screen, which is not quite full screen, but it'll do. There we go. So that's the cover because I set it to have a front cover. And there's section 1 and then every page after that. You will notice, despite the fact that this is Apple Books and Apple Pages, if we look at the text at the top where it says the basics of Scrivener compile, that should have been centered. And I have no idea why it's not. It's just playing with my mind. But everything is in there, including the links to certain sections. So if I wanted to go to section 2, there's section 2. And I can move through that in there. So that's an EPUB. It's a fixed layout EPUB. So it's very different to look at it than the Kindle reflowable style of ebook that we did in the first week. So that's what it looks like as an EPUB. Let's get rid of that. And somewhere, I have no idea where I put it now. Did I put it in there or did I put it in
Patricia
here?
says so many writers need to see this. She'll market and advertise it for you.
Excellent. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. So you could do that. That'd be great.
And Tony B's in.
Hello, Tony. Right, this is the PDF version. Strangely, the PDF version looks more accurate than the other one. So in this one, the headings are correct. They are in the middle. I've no idea what went wrong with the headings. It's obviously just a Pages thing. I must admit, when I looked at the final output, I thought, oh, iBooks author's 10 times better. But I'm sure they'll get there in the end. Would that we all live long enough to see it. So you need to see... You need to get your hands on that, don't you? So you can follow along for yourself. Now, obviously, they're Patricia's settings, but the principles are the principles, and it's the principles that I've covered in there. So, hold that thought until Wednesday, when it's the 1st of December. And we know what that means, don't we, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, we do. It's the MacBites Advent Calendar. Guess what day 1 is? I'll say no more. But make sure you signed up. And then we'll send you a link to the pair of them, and you'll be able to download them. There you go. Okay, let's head off back in here. Oh, digital asset management in Eagle. We started this last week, a new to me application called Eagle. It's available for Mac and Windows. It's got the best web address, en.eagle.cool. Love that. I was on the trial because I wanted to know what would happen on Black Friday. I found out what would happen on Black Friday. It wasn't really what I was hoping for. But they do have a Black Friday deal on. But you'll notice it's a bonus and not a discount. So the price of the thing is $29.95. That probably means VAT for us in the UK as well. But the Black Friday thing is, once you own a copy, you need to retweet a tweet of theirs and then they will give you an extra seat for free. So it's like an extra license for you to be able to install it. To sign up for the Advent Calendar, you just need to be subscribed to the MacBites list. It'll go out to the MacBites list starting Wednesday. No, you do not need to sign up again unless you unsubscribed. So as long as you are a current subscriber to the MacBites list, you will be fine. It will arrive on Wednesday. Right, so that's the offer that's on. I probably will do the upgrade thing. Well, I'll buy the thing and then I'll do the tweety thing. It makes sense to have an extra license rather than not, but there you go. That's the offer that we've got. So, our intrepid selves last week, let's get Eagle running. There we go. I've made a new library. So last week we had the MacBites library. I just randomly picked some stuff. So one was a screenshot and then there was a thing I saw on Facebook and I loved it. I am who I am, your approval is not needed, which kind of summed my week up, didn't it? Let's just say that. So this is a new library, and the reason that I created the new library was, with everything that we looked at last week, it was the fact that the library needs to import the content. So you need to have the library somewhere where you can access it from another machine. And that's where the extra license would come in very handy. So I created a new one because the other one is absolutely huge. And I thought, let's start small and work up. So all I did was go to the library and create a new library. So I'm going to show you that I said create library, put a library in there. So I'll put demo 2 and then create the library. At this point, it's going to ask me where to put the library, and it suggests the pictures folder, but the pictures folder is local. So it's going to need to be on a cloud service if you want to open this on another machine. So I have Cloud Mounter installed, and on my Cloud Mounter, I constantly have mounted the MacBites S3 folder and the Elaine Giles S3 folder. Especially today, I've mounted the pCloud one. In pCloud, I have my standard para organisation, which is an inbox at the top, and then projects, areas, resources and archives. If I was putting this inside para, it would go in resources. But I also traditionally have another folder called application support. And that one is an exception to para, and it lives in the root. And the reason that it lives in the root is it's easier than thinking, where's my application support folder? So I created my application support folder. I don't know why that's complaining. And in there, I created Eagle. And in there, I've already got my demo library in there. So that's where I'm going to put demo 2 as well. And just save it. So now I've got a brand new library, but that's where it is. And it means on any machine that I mount pCloud on, I can get to my contents. So that's an empty library, but I'm going to go back to switch to my other library, which is that one, I think. I think that's the demo one. There we go. That's got these 3 images in it. Now, the point of doing this and showing this is, does it synchronize? Well, there's a thought. Any cloud service, you're going to be at the mercy of their synchronization system. So it very much depends. But what I'm going to do is I will add some images to this. So I'm going back to my Pixelmator ones. And I've got the finished article. So I am literally just dragging and dropping in the finished image. And I'll go and get the other 2. Which, oh, will it like that? That's interesting, because they're both called the same. All 3 of them will be called the same. But the way it organises it, that's not an issue as far as it's concerned, because they're all in separate folders. Right, so there's my 3 images that I've added. What will be happening in the background as I'm working with this is these 3 images will be imported into the Demo Eagle library. And as they're being imported, they will be written back to that location in the cloud. So if we go and have a look at that, that is my pCloud mounted in here. These were 2 things we used in a demo of DevonThink. And the only other folder I've got here is backups. And I don't know if you're aware, but there is a discount deal on. In fact, isn't it off in 2 hours? I think it's going into the last 2 hours. And you can get an extra 2 terabytes of storage to take it up to a maximum of 4 terabytes.
2 hours and 11 minutes.
Oh, there you go. Countdown, countdown. But you will see down here that I've done the deed and I've got my 4 terabytes. And the reason that I did that, because it wasn't cheap, I think it was £209, but it's a lifetime deal. So I've now got 4 terabytes for life and I'd never have to pay any more. My rationale for doing it was, I wanted to be able to back up other cloud services to pCloud. So I tried it, and my requirement was that I didn't need the pCloud client running on the desktop to make it work. And the short version is I didn't need to. So when I set it up, it created this backups folder. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. It would be in archives. But it created that. And the one thing that I backed up was my Google Photos. And I did it from their website. So that's why I've got a backup folder. And within my Google Photos, I've got my albums and my photos. And if we go in there, they're all dated. So they say August, but I don't think they would be August. I don't think they'd be then either. Or there. Did I create a library for an album for them? Let's have a look. Oh, I've got all my stuff in here. 80s Fest. Lola. June the 15th, 2014. That one might... No, that wasn't it either. Somewhere in there, maybe I didn't create a library for them. I've got some pictures of Maya. Oh, he's adorable. But they're probably in the photos, and I'd guess they were early. Fatal error, there you go, and screenshots and stuff. But that is actually my library, and what I liked about that with pCloud was the fact that it didn't change the names or put them in a weird format. So that's what I've done there. But back to the application support, there's the Eagle folder. And in there I've got demo and I've got demo 2. And you can see that it's writing it back. This one got its knickers in a knot earlier and I don't know why, but it seems to be working okay. So that's where the library actually lives and it's synchronizing while you're working with it. So that leads me to, is it going to synchronize on the other computer? Well, there you go. Let's have a look. I've got a question there, which Paul's answered, saying you could use it, but if you can put those questions in, I'll deal with them with the Scrivener bit.
I have done.
So what I'm going to do with this,
Pete's asked a question about this, though.
Okay.
Do images duplicate or replicate if they're in separate libraries?
Yes, they do. Each library is a totally separate container. And it's transparent as well. Although it says demo.library, you can get inside it. So you would create multiple copies of the file if you had multiple libraries. I veer between, do I want a library for a particular job or do I want a global library? That's going to depend on how it behaves when it synchronises or not. So let's have a look at that. Because to my left, not only do I have Mike, but I have another computer. I've got the venerable MacBook Air 2012, which I had all logged in and everything. Oh dear. You know that thing, Mike, where it was working and then it's not? Oh, yes and no. Yes and no to working. Oh, I see. Right, it's doing a permission request thing, you know, just to annoy me. So let's do the log me in. And then I can share the other computer screen with you. And hopefully you'll be able to see it. It wants me to quit everything now as well. You know that thing where it worked in rehearsal and didn't ask for permission? And then you come to do it live and it does.
I know it well.
That, yeah. Magic's been that kind of week. Right, are you working or are you not working? Let's have a look. Oh, it looks like you are. Right, I'm going to switch machines. So you're now looking at my MacBook Air. And you're looking at exactly the same folder. So you can see on here I've got different stuff. I've actually got it hooked up to Yandex as well. You can tell how long it is since I've used this machine in anger. Right, but there's my pCloud. There's my root of pCloud. And there's my application support. And there's Eagle. And there's the libraries. So our demo library and the library 2 demo that we've literally just created. So I will open Eagle. And it will tell me that there's a deal on, and then it'll say you're in the trial and all the rest of it when it finally contemplates it. Right, there we go. So it's actually opened up that demo library. I can switch between the libraries. So I have got a local library on here, and that would switch me straight to that local library. Or I can switch to my demo library, which is in the cloud. Now, as you can see, it had the 3 images. It's forced it to update off the disk because I've gone in and switched libraries. So it's now got the other 3 images and I didn't have to do anything. So all I did to speed it up a little bit was switch libraries and then go back in, which forced it to refresh. But other than that, it does work on any cloud service. Now, if you've got the pCloud app installed, it will work with that. I choose not to have that installed. You've got it installed, haven't you? It's a bit naughty. It keeps giving me notifications of special deals and stuff.
I don't know if I have on this
in
one.
the middle of when I'm doing something else. So I don't actually like to have the client installed.
I have Nextdoor, I think.
I prefer to have Cloud Mounter and then mount what I want on demand and unmount it. Otherwise, it just gets carried away with it. But that proves the point that it does actually, you know, we can click on these, and if you use the space bar, you get a space bar preview, and it's loading that in from pCloud in the cloud. Now, because I'm doing it via Cloud Mounter, there is an element to it in terms of it's caching it locally. So it's Cloud Mounter taking care of that to cache it locally. But I can go through there and I can see all of the other images, and you can see there's not much in the way of a delay as it's loading stuff. It's virtually instant, and that is the spacebar preview, which is another feature. Right, so we'll leave this machine alone and we'll go back to the main iMac, having proved the point that it's working, and it will carry on synchronizing in the background with that all the time that we're working. The only time you'd have a problem with it is on any of the machines that couldn't get to pCloud. So if pCloud's down or your access to pCloud is down, then you would have to contemplate how you're going to handle that. But let's switch back. So we're back onto the main desktop again. Right, so we've done the cloud configurations, we've done the spacebar preview. One thing that I wanted to show you was the tags. We looked last week and said if you click on one of these things, you know, you can add a tag. So for that one, for instance, we might want to say, well, that's an icon. So I'll add a tag, and now we've got an icon tag. But we didn't look at the actual tags in terms of using them.
Will Eagle import raw files, Carol wants to know.
I've tested it up to high efficiency. I've not seen like Canon RAW listed, so quite possibly not. I'm not sure. Haven't tried that bit.
And does it work with a NAS?
It should do. Yep. It's a library. We can actually have a look at it. We did last week. So in the library, if we open it, although it says library, it's also a folder. So within it, you have your backups and you have your actual content. And this images folder is the images. Each image gets a folder. And inside it, so we've got the actual image itself, the original image. And then you've got this JSON file, which is a metadata file. And that's the metadata that belongs to it. So any changes or tags or anything else that you've put on it, you would actually see in that metadata. So I've just, in the Scrivener one, which is the icon, I've just put a tag in it. And if I go in there, you can see it says tags in the text, and then it says icon. So that is where it's storing it. Each individual image has its own meta file. I mean, that makes it difficult for you in terms of if you were going to try and reverse engineer this, rather than it being all the images in a single folder. But it does mean that you can add multiple images of the same name, which you've actually seen me do. If we go back to all, those three all have the same name. But I don't have to add a 1 or a 2 at the end of them, because the way the database is structured, each one is in its own folder, so it doesn't matter. So I was pointing out with the icon here that I've actually created a tag. When I go to my all tags, I can see I've got my icon tag and my screenshot tag. And if I click on there, that will filter out. So remember the power of the filters last time. It's got a filter applied with one element in it, and it's the screenshot one. And that was how I took a screenshot with it. And it automatically tagged it with the screenshot tag so I could find them later. In terms of that, that was mentioned last week, and I had to change the shortcut key. And then I couldn't remember what it was. Right, I've sorted that. I now know what it is. But an easier way to work with it is, there is your eagle icon here. And you can capture an area, a window, or a full screen from here. So if I want to capture a window, I'm going to hover over my Stream Deck. Oh, it failed to import. What's the problem with that? Couldn't be. No, never mind. We'll do a retry. No, it didn't like it. Let me go get another window. Yes, clear all the failed tasks and let's start again. Right, let's go capture an area. And, well, I pressed the space bar. I wonder if that upset it. There it went. Right, so what it's done is it's captured another screen capture. Possibly the Stream Deck window is a special window because it might be half hidden. It might be one of these windows that you can't capture. But I haven't had any problems capturing anything else. So it's captured that, but because it was taken with the eagle icon at the top, it knows that anything captured with one of these three options is to be tagged automatically screenshot. And so it's done that and put it in there. Again, I can use my spacebar to get a lovely preview of that. Notice no dirty corners. Nice, clean, rounded corners. That's good. Snagit, oh, they're square and they're ugly. But that one, it's managed quite nicely. This one, I did as an area. So instead of having rounded corners, it's got squared off corners. But you can take your screenshots from there. They will be automatically added in here. And you can then organise them to your heart's content. So remembering at this point that this does have, although we're in the all section, there is actually a filter applied to it because we filtered by screenshot. So that was our tags. You can do an awful lot with tags because at the moment we'd have to apply a filter for the screenshots. But remember that there's smart folders and we could add a smart folder and we could say our screenshots. So we could do it by name, but it would probably be better to do it where the tag contains. So where the tag, any tag, and then choose the tags and put screenshot in and then create. And then we don't have to do a filter every time we need to see our screenshots. We've got a saved filter in terms of we have a smart folder. Right, point 4. Right, capturing from the screen is all very well, but sometimes you want to capture other things. And for that, we have browser extensions. So the link is in the show notes for this mic. You can put that in, it's the bottom one. This is an extension offered by Eagle. I've installed it. It has put this little icon at the top. And I have then gone over here to MacBites, which is an active website in terms of you can see it being responsive as I'm moving. It will bring things in like that book. That book flies in from the left. Right, bear that in mind. Because what I'm going to do with the Eagle extension, you get lots of options in terms of what to import. And you can save a URL. That's actually the URL. So if I add that to it and it says complete, let's hide that and go back to all. And there is the page and it says URL. So if I preview that, you'll notice that the MacBites, it's live. It's responsive. It's not a picture. And if we get down here fast enough, we just saw the book fly in. So you can actually keep a full URL in there if you want. But it's more likely if you want to refer to the MacBites thing that you like it static. So let's get back into Chrome. And this time from up here, I have no idea where that has disappeared to. There we are, that's back. Right, this time when I'm going to take this, I'm going to say capture the page. So it does a bit of jiggery pokery with it, actually manually scrolling down the page to make the capture. And it's finished. And it gives you the message, say it's coming in. Let's get rid of that. And somewhere in here, eventually, it should pop up. Go on, you know you want to. I did say it succeeded, didn't it? That should go to 9. At some point it will. While it's contemplating it, I will show you one of the snazziest features in here with this. If we look at the page we've got, I've deliberately picked the home page. That does need a refresh because I've just fixed that. Right. Each one of these is a separate image. A lot of these clippers allow you to click on it and just say that image and that image and that image. But if you look at them, there's a lot of them. So in here, we could go down to this bit and we could select an area or the visible bit and just capture this. And then you'd have to click each one. But we also have a batch save. So if we click on batch save, at this point, it's not saved it. At this point, it's letting you choose what you save. And if we look at what we've actually got in here, it's got the logo at the top. It's got an image for that's a 795, which is a post image thumbnail for the podcast. This is the live bit that comes in for the MacBites Live. These are all the individual posters for the shows and the live events. There's the book bit that flies in. There's a tiny icon representing the podcast. Then we've got the waves, which appear at the top, the header, which appears behind the MacBites Live, and there's a background on there. I have no idea where that's used. But it's actually extracted out the individual images. So if you didn't want all of the images, you could literally just choose the ones you want. So I'm not doing anything but clicking them. And that's putting a tick. So it's like selecting them. So if I decided that I wanted all of the artwork ones and not much else, so we just take Unleashed, put a tick in the box, click import 10, and boom, it should import all of them. It's actually doing it at the bottom. Don't know where the other one went, but there we go. And these were actually the ones that were uploaded. I can tell that from the size of them, the 795, which is the right size. So there we go. That batch saved rather cool. I like that. I do. There's all the stuff that we looked at last week, but one thing to be aware of is all of the options you've got in the preferences. The preferences are amazing. So you can alter the theme of this if you would prefer something else. You can launch it on login, which, you know, if you're a designer, you might want to do that. It automatically selects after import, which is why up in this corner here, you'll see instead of like, it might have like a number next to it, they look like thumbnails that are slightly askew to tell you that you've got a multiple selection, and it actually tells you you've got 10 in there as well. So let's get rid of that. What I could do in there as well, if I come out of here, in my tags, I could add poster up there and it would add it to all 10 of them. But let's get back to those preferences, because these are really worth your while working through. You can show the menu item or not. I've got mine hidden in Bartender. So the thing in Bartender is if I click on that, it will sit there for about half a minute to 40 seconds and let me interact with it, and then it will just quietly disappear and go back into Bartender. But if you don't want that menu at all, then you can take the tick out the box, then it will disappear. You can show the counts in the sidebar, which is over on the left-hand side, which I love, but some people don't. In any application that's got a sidebar, I'm going to want to see numbers. So I always make sure that that's actually turned on, and in this case it is. Sound effects I can't be doing with at all. And the reason I don't like sound effects, I mean, if you're used to them and they disappeared, you probably wouldn't be happy. But I'm making recordings and I don't want any sound effects. If something beeps or squeaks, it's gone. To the point, seriously, some of the Mac stuff you can't shut up. It doesn't like it. But you have in your library folder a sounds folder. If I can't set it, I can set it to something custom, but I can't not have a noise. So I have half a second of silence. So when it says like, beep on error, yep, you beep to your heart's content, because what I've set it to is half a second of silence. So we're all happy. So I would probably take the tick out of these, but your mileage may vary. You do have the option to take a 2x screenshot, which I did. So if you've got a Retina display, so you'd have to take the screenshot from the display that you want, which is this one, the one that you're looking at, but you can take it at 2x. You can automatically convert the IPTC attributes to Eagle tags. I don't have that turned on. I have GPU acceleration on because I've already got 128 gig of RAM. So I'm not concerned about that. Then in the viewer, you can change how everything works. So the problem that I had where I said Pixelmator's zoom in and out is backwards to Affinity Photo and Photoshop. I can't remember that. I'm sorry, it's like the backwards bicycle. I can't remember it. So I would want to change that. In here, you can do all of that. You can dictate what is enabled, what's not enabled, whether it works in or out, however you want to work with it, which I find really useful. It's the configurations that's really good. Right, you can even choose what the double click does, whether it expands and collapses it or whether it renames it, because this is cross-platform. There's a Windows version as well. So they don't just want to force on it, you must do it the Mac way or you must do it the Windows way. So you've got all of those and you can choose what you show in the sidebar. So if you are never going to want to see smart folders or quick access, you can turn them off. Your filters, you can show conditions within that filter bar, the one it's talking about across here. You can show extra ones if it makes sense to you. So one of the things I do with my own Mac filters is I have the file type showing, which isn't there by default. So in here, if you were never using the file type, you could get rid of it. For comments, it wouldn't make much sense, but maybe for some people it would. If you're using the comments in a specific way, it might do. So you can toggle those on and off. The shortcuts is genius. I love it. It's almost as configurable as Vivaldi, and I like that. So I was able to go into here, and this capture a selected area had defaulted to Command Option and E. And I'd left Eagle running and I'd gone into Scrivener, and every time I tried to compile, all the toys came out of the pram. And I thought something's captured this key. And I came into here and the default was that. So for the screen captures, I probably wouldn't do it like that. I'd probably use the icon rather than a shortcut key. But they're all in there for you to configure to how you would like. When it's downloading, you can specify between 1 to 15. Even on my machine, which has got a lot of RAM, it gets upset from time to time. But you can decide on your own bandwidth what's relevant there. You've got all of your notifications, which do work. Some of them have been coming up on the wrong screen. Now, what I mean by the wrong screen is I am working on that secondary screen, but to me it makes sense to have the notifications together, but it does put them on whatever screen you're working with. But you don't have to have that if you don't want. It can be controlled at granular level. Then there's your options for the screen captures. So again, you've got the same shortcut keys. Changing them in here will change them in the shortcuts section. But you can decide on a format. Don't take WebP captures. They're spawn of the devil, aren't they, Mike?
They are.
Nothing reads them. I mean, PowerPoint has a dabble, and this is how Wolfie ended up with a box on his head. It didn't work well. So steer away from WebP until it's better supported. PNG is a good format for screen caps, so I stick to that. You can decide whether you want it copied to the clipboard as well. So if you're working on a project like I was with that Pages book about the Scrivener compile, I can work on it at the point I'm working on it, but I can also have a library of screen captures being built up in the background in Eagle without me having to constantly go in and drag and drop them out. It can copy to the clipboard and then I can paste it where I'm working, in the full and certain knowledge that I've also got a copy in Eagle, which doesn't happen with the built-in options. Then we've got video. What do you want to happen with video? So if you're doing vertical scrolling, do you want it to increase the volume or the progress? And what happens when you do various things with video? So it does support video. Then you've got font stuff in there. Automatically add the style tags to it, whether it's regular, bold or italic. You've got a password lock. So if you're in a corporate environment, you don't want people to look at the new branding, you can password protect it. And you've got this auto import. And what that would enable you to do is specify a folder, and anything that lands in that folder automatically gets imported into Eagle. And when you've finished in there, you save the changes. Right, let me have a look at my list. We've done everything that's on my list. So hopefully that will give you an idea whether you want to invest in this while you can get an extra license for free. I will be. I've just got to work. I've got a pecking order on Black Friday deals, haven't I? We were going to leave the P-Cloud one till tomorrow because it said it finished tomorrow. And then tomorrow didn't mean tomorrow. It meant midnight tonight. So we had to sort that one. But this one is on for 4 days. So you've got 4 days to have a think about it. So download the trial and give it a go and let us know what you think. That batch save is just so cool. That is really good. Right, so it's en.eagle.cool. Great web address. It's $29.99 and you'll get an extra seat if you can tweet out. Right, promise the freebies. I can't believe it feels like February 2020 to me. I can't believe that the freebie will be with you next week. It's our Advent calendar promotion. We do this every year. This is I think it's the 10th year we've done it this year. It's changed over the years, but all you need to do, you will get a mail every day for 25 days. So it starts on the 1st of December and it goes right through to Christmas morning, when we'll be on air probably, because we've got a Christmas Eve show. They are all, well, when I say ready to go, that's my notion. And they're all in my notion, but you'll notice they say not started. But don't panic, it's all in hand. It's just the mail that's not started. Everything will be fine. It'll all happen, I promise. It does every year. And trust me, there have been years we have been more disorganised than we are today, I can assure you. Right, all you need to do to be included is make sure that you are subscribed to the MacBites mail list, which the majority of you already are, I believe. That's the QR code, and it will be with you on Wednesday. If you don't get a mail on Wednesday, then let us know. But the mail will be there on Wednesday. We already know what the first one is. Spoiler. That's going to be the guide to Scrivener Compile, which I think is upwards of about 27 pages of what to do. Okay, that's all you need to do. So, we're ready for Power Query and calculated columns, Mike.
We are.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
You're almost ready. I can see that you're almost ready.
I am ready now.
That's taking quite a while to come over here, but I believe you. So, over to you.
Right, I'm not showing my desktop because you make comments about me.
No,
icons.
cover it up, Mike.
I have done. Right, okay. Tabular data should live in the data model. I've discussed that many, many times, rather than the worksheet cells. So in this file, I've got 30,000 rows of data, which I've imported from a database into the data model. And to import it, you use data get data, which is also known as Power Query. If I show you the data model by going to Power Pivot Manage, and before anyone asks, this is only available in the Windows version. So here is the data. Down at the bottom, it shows you 30,000. So there are 30,000 rows of data here. It's made up HR data. You've got employee names, locations, departments, salaries, etc., etc. So that is the data. The query editor, which is part of Power Query, is used to clean imported data. And we looked at that last week. So if I click on Data, Queries and Connections, that brings up the Queries and Connections panel. And each data set that you import into a file has a corresponding query listed in that Queries panel. So there is one query in this file called Employee List. And in that query is the instruction to tell it to go to that database and get the data and load it into the data model. So every time I hit refresh all, that's what it does. It runs that query. It performs the actions inside that query. And that's how the updated data from the database gets into the data model. So let me just go into the query editor. If you right click on the name of the query and select edit, it will open up the query editor and load in the data, and on the right hand side it'll show you the steps that make up this query. So when I hit refresh, it went out to the database, that's the source, and it navigated its way to the table in that database called Employee List that I'd already specified, and it loaded the data into Excel. And that's what those two steps mean. One of the things that the query editor can do is it can be used to clean up imported data. We covered that last week. So things like find and replace. If we want to replace the leaving date that is down as 1st of January 1900 with a blank, because for some reason all the people who are still employed have got a leaving date of the 1st of January 1900 instead of having no leaving date. I might want to filter out the rows where there is a leaving date, so where somebody has left the company and there is a real date, I'm not interested in including them in my report or my pivot table. I might want to remove the TET dash from the beginning of the employee number. So those things are considered to be cleaning your data. But another thing that the query editor is used for is creating calculated columns, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. A calculated column is a new column that gets added to the table. So although you create the calculated column in here, once you close the query editor down, it then adds that calculated column to the data model. It doesn't write it back to the database or the original data source, but it will send it to the data model. And it's generated using a formula. Now, the great thing is with Power Query, in many cases you won't need to write the formula. You just use the appropriate buttons from up here. So what I will do is go to add column. So on the add column menu or add column tab, there's a whole bunch of buttons, and you use the appropriate buttons to generate this extra column, and then behind the scenes it generates the formula. So I'll give you an example. What I want to do is add an extra column to the table in the data model, which I'm going to call country code. And the country code is going to be the first two characters of the location. So FR for France, SP for Spain, G for Germany, etc., etc. So this is how we do it. Click on the location column and then click on add column, extract first characters, and type in a 2. The reason it's a 2 is because I'm telling it to keep, that's what extract means, keep the first two characters from that column. So I'll click OK, and it's created a new column for me, and it's given generated the first two characters. And what I then would need to do is rename that column. So I'll double click its heading and call it country code. As I say, it will, and you'll see this shortly, it will write that back to the data model. So that's one example of a calculated column. Another example, a little bit more complex, is to calculate somebody's age. So we've got the dates of birth of everyone, and I want to calculate their age. So I select the date of birth column, and I click on add column because I want to create a new column, and then select date and age. And that isn't totally right, but we'll make a few changes so it is right. What it's actually done is it's created a new column called age, so I don't need to rename that, but the little timer there, timer icon, tells us it's what's called a duration column. And a duration column is a combination of days, hours, minutes, seconds. So what you're actually seeing is the number of days old that somebody is. So with that column selected, I'm not going to add another column. I could add another column that will calculate how many years old they are and then delete this column, but there's no point doing that. Instead of using the add column, I'm going to use the transform tab. And in fact, as I switch between those two tabs, you can see that a lot of the buttons on them are the same. Transform will make changes to this selected column. Add will, as the name suggests, add a new column. So I want to do a transform, and then I want to click on duration, and I want to extract the years. So instead of it showing me whatever it was, 17,596 days, I've just told it to basically calculate the number of days but show it in years. It's effectively dividing the number of days by 365, but instead of you having to do that yourself, it's doing it for you by you just saying, tell me the number of years. Then I want to round that down, because we don't want to say that we're 48 years and 0.2 of a year, do we? Now, we could just do a round, but if we do a round, when it gets past the 0.5, it'll round up. So that would show us 62, for example, and this person's not 62 until the 13th of December. So with that column selected, I will click on rounding round down. And we've now got everybody's age. And then when the day changes, so every 24 hours, they will update. Well, they will only update if it is that person's birthday. But there you can get somebody's age. Okay, next thing is I want to combine the first name and the surname. So to do that, I will create a new column, so add column. And once I've chosen add column, in fact, before I do add column, I need to select the two columns. Now, this is important that you select first name and then surname, not surname and then first name, because when you use the merge columns command, which we'll do in a minute, the order is actually based on how you select them. So you've got to make sure that you click first name, hold the control key down and click surname. And that will give me Paul Foose, Eva McLean and so on. Whereas if I click surname, held the control key down and clicked first name, that would then give me the surname and then the first name. So it actually remembers the order that you selected them. So with those two selected, add column, merge column. The separator is going to be a space, and the new column I'm going to call full name, like that. And then at the end we have a new column called full name. Okay, and then the final example that I'm going to do is going to be to show the first initial and the surname. So what I'm going to do here is first of all extract the first character of the first name. So select the first name column only, and then very much like I did before when I wanted the first two characters from location, I'll click on add column, extract first characters and 1. So that will give me a new column which I will call initial, and then I need to make sure I select initial and surname, and I need to make sure I do it in the right order. So select initial and then hold the control key down and choose surname. And with those two selected, click on add column, merge column. This time the separator will be a custom separator, and it's going to be full stop space. And the new column I'm going to call initial and surname, and click OK. And there we go. We've got everybody's first initial, then a full stop, space and surname. So once you've created your calculated columns, we can click on File, Close and Load. And what that will do is basically save the changes to the query. And once it's done that, it tells you it's loading the data. And if we want to go and look at the data model, we can go to Power Pivot, Manage. And we should now have all of these extra columns. There we go. There's the initial and surname. There's the initial, the full name, the age, and the country code. Which means that if we wanted to create a pivot table that showed the average age per country, we could use that column and that column to build the pivot table from. So let's just do that quickly. Okay, select that, insert pivot table from data model, drag in the country. So I could actually use the country code instead of the country. Drag the age into values. and then change that from a sum, which is the default, to an average. And that shows me the average age per country. It looks like everybody's the same age, but that's just because of the fake data. Very, very similar ages. But yeah, that is correct because they are slightly different numbers. So that is part 1 of calculated columns, and I will continue with part 2 next week.
Not a desktop in sight. Which makes you a happy bunny, doesn't it?
Yes.
Makes everybody else the same way. Right, let's push the buttons over here. Doing its own thing again, but never mind. And on to Scrivener. So, we had a question earlier, didn't we? Which I now can't see.
We did. I will read it out.
Read it out to me, Mike. That'll help.
I will read it out. It says... it's from United. Iconic. Sorry, off topic. Would you recommend Scrivener to use as a lecture or study plan, like each subject having their own folder?
Depends what you want to do with the information. I wanted to create course materials with it. If you're talking about making a course, you can't go wrong with Scrivener. If you're talking about making notes on a course you're attending, Scrivener might not be the way. It would depend what output you wanted from it. It's great for output, but in terms of the input, maybe there would be better ways to do that. I'm particularly thinking of something like Notion or DevonThink. When I'm making notes on sessions that I'm attending, I'm actually making those in Rome. And that for me is by far the fastest way to do it. And I pull it together because it's organised by date. So it's doable. But I wouldn't create a course in Rome. No way. So it very much depends on what you're actually doing with it. Right. But handily, I'm actually going to show you building a solution. So if you think about if it's creation, just let me know if it's creation or if it's you taking courses and making notes on it. If it's creation, this is going to be bang on point for you. Right, so I've been threatening this. We're going to start looking at building a solution in Scrivener. So this week I'm going to take you through what I've actually done. Well, I'm not going to pollute it by saying this is what I've done and this is how you do it. This is what I've done and this is how you do it. I'm just going to take you through what I've actually done, and then we can have a look at doing it if that is relevant down the line. Right, let's get into it. So the thing with Scrivener is it has a ton of different options, and there is no right way to use them and there is no wrong way to use them. So you've got views, you've got cards, you've got a corkboard, you've got custom metadata, you've got file, colour, you've got all sorts. It all hangs off an individual piece of content though. So a scrivening or a document is what they call an isolated piece of information within the binder structure. Each of those has its own notes, research, links, metadata, keywords, you name it, all of those things exist on a per scrivening basis, which some of them also work on multiple scrivenings. So obviously your word count wouldn't work well if it only worked on an individual piece of content. It works at the granular level, and a word count works on a more macro level as well, that it can count multiple scrivenings and what the word count is. But there is no right way and there is no wrong way to use the features that are there. The number one thing I get is, oh, how should I use this? How should I use that? Or where should I put this? Where should I put that? And the answer to that depends on what output you want if you are creating output. So obviously if it's a book, then there is some kind of output, but for some people there isn't. They would just take lecture notes, if it's lecture notes they want, and then keep it in Scrivener. And there's nothing wrong with that because you've got labels and status, you've got keywords, so you could track certain topics with keywords. The features are there for you to decide what way they would work best for you. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned I used virtually everything. Keywords, no. And I sat and I pondered, what should I be using the keywords for? You know, it's a powerful feature. What should I use that for? And I came to the conclusion, do you know what? I don't need to, so leave it alone. But it's easy when you're looking at an application to be thinking, well, it's got this feature and I want to use it. But if there's no need to use it, don't use it, just leave it. And sometimes you start using a particular feature to track something and then think, actually, I need to use a different feature for that. I will show you the decisions I've made and why I've made them. But this is an old file. It goes back, I think, to 2014. And it was the first time I had something to do that I wasn't solely in charge of. So it was a Pixelmator course, and I was responsible to report back to an editor. Normally that's me. So I thought, well, I better formalise this. You know, the odd post-it note strewn across my desk won't work if I've got to report it to somebody else. So I started off with, I'll just manage what makes sense to use. And then it was like, oh, good grief, I could add this and this and this and this. And in the end, the entire management of this course was in Scrivener, all of it. The course creation, the content creation, the data creation, recording the schedule, the tracking of the progress. Even that is calculating, as you see, but that's actually an embedded numbers spreadsheet. I did the whole thing in Scrivener. It's great for that. So that was what it looked like. And what I was interested in doing with the compile feature was all of the information I'd taken the time in putting in there. I needed to output that information in a certain way. And I was able to do that. So the features that it had, I used to benefit me. I still use a similar system to what you're looking at now, but obviously it's refined over the years. And I've done that. But you'll see that as we go. But one of the things that made me stick with this through 3 days of trying to make a compile configuration, because if we thought Patricia's was tricky, this one was way more difficult. And I did it in the end, which meant that I could push a button, and at the push of a button at any point, I could export I think it was a HTML file, maybe RSS, but whatever was output, they loaded directly onto their system. And I didn't need to do a thing, not a thing, which was great. So even down there to my bio and all of the numbers, all of it all came out automatically. I even used it back in the day when iBooks Author was a thing, and it was fabulous. I had a whole membership thing going on with iBooks Author. I think there was something like 17 hours of training. So I had to manage the creation of each chunk of it. And I did that in another Scrivener file. So you can see I've got bits that are red, which will like there's a hard hold on that. Can't do that for some reason. There's bits that are green that are done and they're approved, and amber, which is, working on it. The whole thing, if you can do one course in it, then you can do many, many more courses in it in one individual file, and that was what I did. So I'm working at the moment on a course. This is it. So it's changed over the years. This is the very latest iteration of what I'm doing, and it's a bit squashed on this screen, but we'll go through exactly what I've got and why I've done it. So I work constantly in this view, only obviously I can see all of this. Everything that's there, I can see all of that normally on my screen. So why did I build it this way, and how did I build it? Well, I just started from a blank file. So all I had was the draft, and that was it. But what I added, taking it from the top, I added an inbox, and I think it's good practice when you've got any kind of system. I mean, you've even seen my drives. All of my drives have got an inbox of some description. So there's the inbox at the top there. That one's got an inbox. All of my stuff on here has an inbox, and they're in the cloud. So I put in an inbox, and I do use it. So in my inbox, I've actually got 2 items, and these are changes that are required. So I'll widen this while we go through what's in the binder. But this is changes that's required to the Scrivener file. So I needed to change the label colours because they were just too wishy-washy. They really were appalling. This is what they look like. And I thought, how did that happen? I can barely tell them apart. These are yellow and that one's a peach colour. It doesn't look any different to me. So that was one of my requirements in here. So now we have the United Colours of Benetton over there, but they're not too bold. If you think back to the slides, they're not as bold as they were, but they give me exactly what I need. I've then got more instructions of what I need to do. And that's the changes for Scrivener. I also have in there changes for PowerPoint. So when this course was originally made, which is this version of it, it was in Keynote, and I'm not risking my slides in Keynote. So these are this is one of the changes that I need to do. And rather than sit and think, where do I need to put that in this file? It goes straight in the inbox. And then on a weekly basis, I will deal with the inbox. Then there's a journal, and you'll see that some of this goes back to June. But a course journal is critical. And I would say if you are taking a course, having a course journal is a good idea, just to write down how you feel, how it's going. It's great to look back on. So this is what one of the entries would look like. So I came back to it on the 18th, and this was what I needed to do. So I was working on it overnight, hence by 4:10 a.m. 6 lessons ready for audio. The slides are done. This is where I'm at. This is a status report. It's a status update. And I can go to my journal at any point. Obviously, I'm looking at the latest one so far. Been busy on something else for the week. But it's so useful to get up to speed quickly. You think, as you're doing the course, who's got time for that? All right? But if you do it, you'll thank you. A future you will thank you later. The course is not in Udemy right now. It's going to be. So hopefully before Christmas. Before Christmas is the intended date, but I will let everybody know when it is. Every time I sit through somebody's session and they're using a Blue Yeti and they're talking to the backside of it, I'm like, no. So I'm hoping that people realise just how much they need this. So that's where I put that, and I find the journal is fascinating when you go back to a previous iteration of a course. It's fascinating. Take the time and do it. And all this is a standard folder where I've changed the icon and then put in a new blank page for each day. It's as simple as that. Then this folder is the special folder. This one is the draft folder. You can tell that from the icon. This having multiple content in it was what was causing my other compile to break. But in here, the only thing that is in this draft folder is the actual content of the course, which is broken up into modules. So there's the welcome module and the Blue Yeti family and the accessories and configuring it and all of that in folders. And then within the folder, you've got the actual script. Now that's like being shouted at, isn't it? Because I have that at 125% when this is at full resolution, but it's quite happy at 100% on here. I have gone through this and I have reformatted it. So if you look at that script by comparison to the original, the spacing's much improved and the thing go all the way across. But that's just formatting. So all of these are styled. That's the slide, that's the intro, outro, that's commentary. And some of these actually have a full script where I've got to do things. I know, do things and say things, which I may or may not have in here. One of them did. I know that. There we go. So I've got some sound effects that I need, that I'm talking from the front of it. With this one, I'm talking to the top of it. Don't do that. And this is what I'm actually saying. So that's in red, and that says action. So from that script, I instantly know whether I'm saying it, thinking it, or whether it's background information, which is grey. So that's the course content. All of that is the course content. It's got the dots in here. And obviously the colour coding from that travels through to the outline, which is on the right hand side, and the colours match up, etc. I do like to see that in the binder, but I do like the option that it's dots and not colouring the whole thing in. You can do that if you want. So in your view options, you can use the label colour in and you can say the binder. But you've also got show us the background colour in the binder, and that is turned off. You turn that on and you get that, which to me is overkill because I'm looking at this outline all the time as well. So for me, it's better to have that without that. But if you only want to use the binder and not the outline view, you can choose to do that. And at least now there's a little white line between them, which there wasn't before. Just to complete the tour of what we've got over here, I then have the front matter, which usually front matter is for a book. But you'll see that this is course metadata. And like that bit is just the project title. Why do I need that? Well, I'll show you, probably next week now. But I've also got the duration of it, and I will have a course summary of it when I've written it. And having that as course metadata allows me to reuse it in any location I choose. There'll probably be back matter as well, but at the moment there's just the front matter in there. Then I have a range of notes, which is things that I need to add at the moment, mainly things I need to add. Because since me preparing this course and the first iteration of it, which isn't on Udemy, they've released new microphones and a new software app. So I have had to make notes that I need to, put this in somewhere. I need to find where I can put it and put it in the right place. Then I've got research, which I tend not to put that in here, mainly because the research has already been done on this. But I would use the research folder if need be. The reference folder is things that I need to know, but usually like once. So the Udemy video settings, that's what they want. If it doesn't look like that, they're not going to be happy. Then there's shortcuts and video sizes. So I put those in the reference section. Then I have system management, which is mainly a changelog. So from the original, this is what I set up. And then as I iterated through it, I put a changelog together with what I added and what I took away. What I added, what I took away. And as you go through it, you see each of those. This one is a work in progress. These are changes that I've made, but I'm not married to them yet. They are unreleased. I will add them in and give it a number as and when I do that. Again, you may think that's overkill. Future you will thank you. Then there's the trash, nothing in the trash. And then there's templates, and the templates are fairly fully fledged, some of them. They veer from not much, like a lesson, nothing, or lesson content, nothing. Even the quiz is basically the fact it says the word quiz and it's got an icon. Or an extra with an icon. A changelog obviously has the correct structure for the changes log, but they're fairly basic. A module is also fairly basic. In essence, it's just a folder called a module. But there's other stuff that is really far more detailed, which is like the Udemy folder. So in here, I have admin and course information. Obviously, a course needs course information. So I have to specify course goals, the full curriculum, what the landing page includes, the prices and coupons for it, the captions, auto-generated and what I've uploaded, any automatic messages that I send I have to have in there. I have to submit a course for review, so I fill that in at the point that I do that, and then any feedback that I get from the course. The course goals, as you can see, you need to be really detailed. The curriculum, you need to be fairly detailed. Yeah, the landing page, all the stuff you need for the landing page. So what's the title, the subtitle, the description, basic information, but you still have to have language and level and category and subcategory. This is why it takes so long to put a course together. It's not the actual course, it's all of this stuff that is needed. But all of that is in the course information there. The admin side of it is how I put it together. So what styles it needs, and then the course creation process, what steps they expect you to take. And the PASTA system, which is making sure that the course solves a problem. So all of that is a template. And the reason it's a template is I would use the same bit here. All of this would be the same if it was a Udemy course or a Skillshare course or a course that I've put together. So having these as a template means when I've decided, all I need to do is go to where I would want it, which is probably under the inbox. And up here, I can say it's a new Udemy course. and just release that and it would add that folder and I'm good to go, which I haven't actually done with this yet. So that's what's in the binder and the bits that I would need to add to the binder. The course itself, you've seen what the script looks like. I record from within Scrivener, but I have added this week the ability to export the script if I need to a PDF with a custom compile. The other bit that's really important to me, so I'll make it wider so we can see it, is the outline that we have over on the right. The outline is very important. So you can have this, you'll see over here, these are not numbered. These are not numbered in any way, but in here they are. So this is video 1 and that's 2.1 and 2.2 and 2.3. That is an option in here. You can either have it with numbers or without. It's just a visual thing that you can put in there. Where did the numbers disappear to? Hang on, there we go, with numbers. You can also decide if you have it with the synopsis or not. Now, the synopsis is shown in that little bit there. So I've got that synopsis there, that synopsis. So it's showing the synopsis. Again, you don't particularly have to have that. You can take that away and that now says title, not title and synopsis. So it's really flexible. But what I decided to use the synopsis for was literally the synopsis of each video, because each video needs a description on Udemy. So the description is over there. And if I go to this one, then the description is there. So I can see them all by adding the description to the outline. Why did I decide to put that there? Well, that's one of these examples. Where do you want that text to appear? Let's define what it is. It's an outline of each lesson. Well, where do you want to see it? If you want to see it in the outline, make it the synopsis. Because if you put it in the notes, you can't see the notes in the outline view. So that determines where you put it. You'll see in my notes it says all done, as does that one. But that one doesn't. So what I'm using the notes for, I'm putting that in there. So need to add the secret source of the last video, is to remind me to do something. And I'm putting it in the notes. I am able to generate, with a custom compile, a status report on where we're up to and what still needs to be done using the notes, which I will show you next week. But that's why I've decided to put that there. If you wanted to see what needs to be done in the outline, then flip them over. Put the notes that I've got there in the synopsis and take the summary and put that in the notes. So this is what I'm saying about it needs to be, you need to use the features in the way you need to use the features. What else have I got in here? The colour is coming from the label. So this pink one, I know pink, I should be short. But I'm saying it's 2021 ready, which means it's been updated and it's ready to go. I also added this lesson number here. And the reason that I did that was each of these has a folder. Where did I put those? I've no idea. But each of these has a video, a recording, and it's got audio recordings, and it's got all kinds of stuff, sound effects that are needed. And they need to go in a folder and be numbered. So each video, each lesson here has a reference number as well. And that matches up with the folder. So I put that in as custom metadata. So in here, I've got custom metadata lesson, and there's a number in there. I do use the keywords in this, but probably not in the way that you would think. I can tell by glancing at that, it tells me two things. It tells me that there's a green square and an orange one. The green one means Camtasia. The Camtasia file is done. The orange one means the PowerPoint file is done. So if I go to this one here, that one, and we go to the keywords at the bottom, you can see it's saying Camtasia file, slides are on the timeline. So it gives me, it's a more detailed status update because I don't want to have 37 statuses. I just, ready to record, that's good enough. Because it would be ready to record irrespective of whether the Camtasia file exists or the slides are on the timeline. So that gives me extra information. I've then got a type, which if you remember back to the compile is the most important thing. because that is going to determine what that looks like when you compile it. So I have modules and I have lessons, and at some points in here I have quizzes as well. So we know there was a template for a quiz, and here's the quiz, and there's the quiz question. So I set those in there properly, and then when I come to do the compile, I can determine what I'm actually compiling and what it should look like. So if the question should be in a certain colour, I can do that. That is like the basics of looking at it. The next step with what I've got is to talk through the compile options and just how different the compile options can be from the same source data, which we'll look at next week. So let me get back in there and tell you what we've got coming up. We have got next week, which I had down originally, as this one.
Oh.
But no, it's December next week because the Advent thing will have started. Yay! So we'll be on to day 3 of the Advent thing this time next week. And available on demand, we have everything, which you will find at youtube.com/ElaineGiles. We have our dedicated After Hours playlist, which is macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist, no spaces or lowercase. We will get round to a MacBites at some point, and when we do, it's going to premiere on MacBites FM at 8 o'clock. Some time or the other is when that's going to happen, seriously. But we love you guys. If you love us guys, can you give us a like? Because it really makes a difference. Right, my VIP list is at elainegiles.com/VIP. And of much more significance, because I don't do the Advent thing. No, sorry, no, that's a MacBites thing. So you need to make sure that you are subscribed to the MacBites mail. If you are unsure whether you are, then ping us and we'll let you know if you are. Mike can do some checking, can't you?
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. Because you won't want to miss the Advent things. We have exclusives, we do. Brand new exclusives this time. And we, of course, are always on Slack, despite the rain and the howling outside. Can you hear it? Weather's the worst I've heard it for ages. Slack is where we carry on the conversation. She's going to need a lady pipe. She is going to need a lady pipe, isn't she? Poor girl. You would be most welcome to join us at macbites.co.uk/Slack. So I'm going to pop that onto there and pop that onto there. Hopefully that'll work. No one will see the difference, which means I can push that button. Oh, that was just in time. Slides have gone funny. Which means in turn I can see the chat. So let me move the chat so I can see the chat. Right, what's going on in the chat? Right, what's going on? Did we have that question or did I totally answer that question? Let me see the question. I'll go and see the question.
Which one?
Lecture study plan. I think, you could. Because what you could do is you could segment up your content and then create like a set of revision notes or something if it's that kind of stuff. If it's the kind of stuff where you want to have a summary of notes or things like that, I think that is actually possible. Whether it's the best way to do it or not is a completely different business, but it's one option. I probably use Scrivener more for things that it isn't really intended for than things it is intended for. But that's just the way I am. So do we have any other questions while I push buttons? Right, I'm pushing buttons. Can you keep an eye on the chat and pass the questions on? All right. Oh, can you hear the wind?
Replying to one.
Oh, have we got a question? You've not shared it. That's not kind.
No, I was
not while I'm shuffling over here.
Talking.
I'm shuffling.
Patricia was asking about Advent, so I've explained what it is. Every day we give something away, and you'll need to sign up for the MacBites mailing list to take part. You do, but it's so worth it. It is.
I know Kim's not with us tonight, but Kim loves it. Kim's a great advocate for it. So that's what we do. It has changed over the years, but it has always been well received, and it's been, you get mails back from people as well. Do you remember 2014 when we had to abandon it halfway? And people were fabulous. People were really, really fabulous. We had to abandon it halfway because my mum wasn't well. Why isn't this working? I'm pushing buttons. There we go. Right, that seems to be working now. Right, I think. And we got mails back from people. People were amazing. So yeah, we're always very moved by what we get back. So yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy all of that. Right, let's do that. Okay, I think that's all sorted. So can I see the chat now? There's the chat. Excellent. And we've had a full complement of Debs. So fantastic today. Right, Deborah's used Scrivener for some different projects. So easy to research and set up courses, that sort of thing. It is. Lecture notes, I can imagine it, depending on what output you want, but I tend to think of Scrivener in terms of output and not input. I will find a place to put something in Scrivener, if you know what I mean. It isn't sometimes obvious where you would put something. Hopefully we'll pull it together in the second half next week, where you'll see why I put the synopsis in the synopsis. I put the summary in the synopsis feature, and then I put the progress in the notes. It isn't that the progress necessarily needs to live in the notes, but if I put it in there, then I can from that generate a status report. So I don't see why not. There just might be a better way to do it. It depends what you need. Let's put it like that. Depends what you need. Right, I've got things moving now, so that's wonderful. Things are moving. Okay, let's see if there's any more here. Right. I need to do that. Okay, I think we're there. Right, so in that case, if we got all the questions done, I am going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Night, guys.